Welcome to the Nedgroup Investments Excess Select Diversified Fund of Funds Quarter 3 Fund Commentary. The Select Diversified Fund of Funds falls into the high equity prudential category, which may hold up to 75% in equities, including both domestic and international exposure. The fund aims to achieve a return of inflation plus 5 over a rolling 5-year period and is managed according to Regulation 28. Hence, one can put pension and retirement monies into the fund. As at the end of Quarter 3, the fund was a 4-way split between 3 active managers, being Coronation, FoF and Prudential, along with a single low-cost passive holding managed by Tequanta. With effect from the 1st of October 2018, the Allan Gray Balanced Fund will also be included in the mix at an initial weight of 10%. If we go and take a look at the asset allocation of the fund, we see that the total equity exposure was maintained at approximately 68%, which is close to the maximum allowed of 75% within its mandate. Most of this domestic equity allocation remains biased to Rand hedge stocks, with Rand hedge stocks being defined as those stocks, although listed in South Africa, that achieve more than 50% of their revenue from offshore. The fund thus has 27% invested directly offshore, with another 27% exposure in Rand hedge stocks, giving you over 54% of the portfolio being exposed to offshore assets. This is also evident in the top 10 positions held in global companies like Naspers, BAT, Sasol, Aspen and Richemont. The R186, a fixed income instrument, is our largest holding, making up approximately 4.8%. This bond offers a real yield, which is the yield over and above inflation, of around about 4% at an acceptable level of duration risk. Looking at the fund's performance over the quarter, we see that the fund achieved a return of 1.5% versus its peer group of 1.1%. Over a 3-year annualized period, the fund has achieved 6.1% versus the peer group of 5.3%, and over 5 years, 6.7%, which is exactly in line to peers also on 6.7%. If we look at the fund's calendar year performance, we see that it has consistently been ahead of peer group, barring 2014, when our exposure to platinum and resources stocks hurt the fund during that period of time. If we look at the risk measures of the fund since inception, we can notice a few outstanding characteristics. First of all, we see that the fund has a volatility of 7.9% versus the South African equity market of 14.5%. We also see that the maximum drawdown of the fund over the fund's time horizon has been minus 17.2% versus the South African equity market at minus 40.4%. This has resulted in a Sharpe ratio of 0.3, and 67% of the time the funds have provided one with a positive monthly performance return. 96% of the time over any rolling 5-year period, the fund has outperformed the peer group. If we look at the histogram on the bottom right-hand side, we see that the fund's quarterly returns are most commonly between 0% and 6%, while the positive outliers far exceed the negative outliers to the left of the graph. Looking at the underlying fund performance, you will see that we have color-coded each of the 4 underlying funds with a different color. What you will also see is that each of the colors varies from calendar year to calendar year. This shows one of the main benefits of multi-manager products, which allows you exposure to different fund managers and investment styles over various time periods when each style may perform differently to another. You will notice that year to date, the top performing fund has been the Prudential Balanced Fund, up 3.8%, with the Coronation Balanced Fund being the worst performer, down negative 0.1% year to date. What detracted from Coronation's performance was that they have a relatively large exposure to global emerging markets that suffered losses over this quarter due to the risk-off environment in global markets and people selling out of emerging markets and moving their capital into the more first world developed market sectors. The final slide sets out the performance figures across the various classes of the fund. We hope that you have found this brief commentary and report useful in terms of understanding the underlying holdings and investment performance of the Select Diversified Fund of Fund.